Okay, I have one totally absurd game for you that I think you will enjoy quite a bit, and then we can discuss the deck list and what I'm trying to do with it in a minute. But first, let me show you a game that was so good that I literally played one game today and said, I have to record this. And it was this game here against Kratex. And so we're going to go ahead and, without further ado, we'll just roll right into it. Now I was trying out in this game, I was trying out Fire Ice. I really feel like the card definitely belongs in the deck, but just can never seem to find a slot for it. Anyway, I'm playing against the Scarab God, and or Kratex rather, running the Scarab God, and I lose a die roll. So my first hand here is just really garbage. It doesn't have like it's missing the quantity of mana it needs for Fact or Fiction or Tezzeret. It has no search cards. It does no real removal other than Disenchant, which it can't play, and a Mind Twist that it can't play, and pretty much no interaction. I think this is a definite 100% mulligan, but this is also one of the hands that could be salvageable if the new mulligan system were in place. However, I end up taking the mulligan. We're still in the old one. And I get this. Now, here's a hand that the new mulligan system would absolutely fix, right? But it's an incredible hand that I do not want to give up. But I don't want to give it up so bad. I decide, you know what? I'm gonna get to scry one, and I'm going second. So I only need any land in my top two cards, and I should be off to the races for the most part. There's a couple lands that it wouldn't work, like Wasteland or Strip Mine would buy me some time, but they don't produce color. But I mean, even if I get like Inventor's Fair here, which is the card that I've added to the deck, I could go get Artifact Mana, and then I'm ready to go. So I decided to keep a risky keep, but let's see what happens. So my opponent, and my top card, by the way, Mox Opal. I thought, do I really want to tuck the Opal? Because if I draw, I could keep the Opal, and I definitely don't get a play on the first turn. But after that, as soon as I do find a land, well, I could go, land, Soul Ring, Grim, Opal, and Enlightened Tutor. Nah, it's just not worth it though, because I need the land to happen fast, and waiting an extra turn to get going feels too risky. My opponent leads off with Mana Vault. So, oh my goodness, this is scary. They're playing the Locust God, or Scarab God. I'm expecting Vault to mean that the commander's coming down next turn. So let's carry on. I draw a Thran Dynamo. Nothing. Okay, that happens. That means I've gone through 3 cards already. Oh, that's a 4th card. I shouldn't have pitched Fire Ice here. I kick myself afterwards. I should have pitched Cryptic Command. So when I draw a 5th non-land card, I throw that away. Opponent is off to the races. They've got 7 mana in play. They play Cemetery Reaper, Forgotten Creation, and I finally draw land. It's a plateau. Not my best land, but it does produce white, and I'm able to get Soul Ring Grim down. Now for my opponent's turn, they untap Mana Vault, and they've got quite a bit of pressure. They play a Bajuka Bog here and smash in for 6. And on my turn, I run out a Thran Dynamo. I decide not to ET during my upkeep. I was hoping to just find a source of black and maybe just twist off the top, or a source of blue for Dovin. I get neither one. I get that Workshop. That's fine, I guess. I get the Thran. It allows me to play the Thran Dynamo and Enlightened Tutor here for Gilded Lotus. And I'm really, really hoping that this doesn't get countered. It doesn't. Shoo. All right, so just in case they were letting that through, I play Dovin first. It comes through, and then I play Jace. I make a blocker for his Cemetery Reaper and pass. Now for my opponent's Cemetery Reaper, I suppose. Opponent then runs out their Commander Scarab God and doesn't swing, which is really funky. So I get to keep the Thopter to block another turn. I go for my turn. I bounce the Scarab God and then Mind Twist my opponent. And my opponent chooses to put the Scarab God into their graveyard. Now, they didn't have enough mana to activate Cemetery Reaper, but I assume they did that because they're planning to activate Cemetery Reaper. However, I'm going to pause. And if they do, what it will do is exile the commander, put it back in the command zone, and they get a 2/2 for free. So this is actually like extra fuel for them, and it does make sense. However, this next turn doesn't make sense at all. This is a really bad play on my opponent's part. So I get 3 blockers down, which creates a really funky situation. One of the cards I Mind Twist was Grixis Slave Driver, which I can unearth to create this 4/4 normally, but 5/5 because it's a zombie. So they're going to have 3 attackers, and I've got 2 planeswalkers and 3 blockers. So if they send all the attackers at Jace, which is I assume the more threatening planeswalker. I could triple block, right, and then keep my Jace, but then they've cleared my board. That's not too bad for them. Alternately, however, I could double block like this, kill the Cemetery Reaper, and then let Jace die. And I was thinking about it, and if I kill the Cemetery Reaper, unless they find a way to exile their commander down the road, then I've gotten rid of their commander permanently. So I make the decision that I'm going to let Jace die, and I'm going to double block the Reaper. But then I check attacks, and I'm like, what? They went face here. They shave off half my life, dealing 9 to me, but I get to kill the Cemetery Reaper with the 2 flyers and take 9 and keep Jace, which is crazy. I will happily play 9 life to keep a Jace. Anyway, now if the last card in my opponent's hand is removal, instant speed, this could backfire on me, but I figured I wouldn't triple block here, even though that's the case, because Wayfarer is too important where I'm struggling for mana all game. I still can't cast my commander. And so I decide this is it. I'm just going to cross my fingers and hope it's not instant speed removal. And it is not. So really bad play by my opponent. They do get a zombie here, but now I get to Jace. And look, that Jace was lethal. I just drew a Fabricate and a land. The Fabricate allows me to go get Chromatic Lantern, which I get into play. I'm assuming my opponent has no counter based on what's going on right here. So I run out Breya. I don't bother like getting Cavernous Souls, for example. And they have a counter. So I've got to make a blocker to keep Jace around. So I do. And my opponent's empty-handed. And I've got a Weathered Wayfarer activation hidden under this workshop that now produces white if I want it. And off the top, my opponent goes, how about 13 2/2s? And I'm like, oh, crap. So I'm going to pause. So what land do you get here? Well, if I had Inventor's Fair in the deck, I probably would have gotten that. Since it produces any colored mana with the Lantern, and the Inventor's Fair gives me the option to maybe go get Shackles or something like that. But I hadn't actually made the Inventor's Fair swap yet. I actually have taken out the Adakar Waste to see if I can afford to run Inventor's Fair in the slot. So I hadn't done that yet, though. So I can't go get Inventor's Fair. So the next option might be to go get Wasteland just to make sure that they stay off of the flashback mana here. But I decide that what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get Scalding Tarn. So the reason I go get Scalding Tarn here is this. I'm going to have to double block and then activate Wayfarer like I did. I go get Scalding Tarn. So let's say my next draw is like Ponder, Preordain, or Brainstorm, or maybe Impulse, something like that, right? So I think about it, and I'm looking for a tutor, right? So let's say what I could do is I could activate Jace, and I could draw 3 cards and put them back. Like let's say it's Brainstorm, right? So I activate Jace, or I cast the Brainstorm, but probably just activate Jace since it doesn't cost any mana. So I draw 3 cards, and I look and I don't find a tutor. So I put 2 cards back, and I would retain Scalding Tarn and the Brainstorm in this example, or Ponder, or Preordain, right? Then I use my fetch land to clear out the top of my library and try again. One last chance to find Demonic Tutor or something along those lines. So that was my thinking, and so I end up getting a fetch land here when I really don't want a fetch land at 11 life, but it just seems like that's the best chance I have. It's an extreme corner case. But my deck completely cooperates with me. Remember, I have shuffled at least once here by using the Wayfarer, and the next card is Vampiric Tutor. So I get to Jace, right? I get to Vampiric Tutor, rather, and then Jace the card into my hand that I want, which is Deluge. And in that pile is also a Tezzeret. And so I get to run out Tezzeret, untap, Deluge, Breya. I decide I'm going to go ahead and gain 4 life right here and leave up Grim Monolith and Breya with an activation and pass. And my opponent, for their turn, top decks a creature. And with that, they're dead on board. I Brainstorm. Do you see the kill? Here it comes. Jace the card back to their hand, activate Tezzeret, attack for exactly 30 damage, dead. Oh my goodness, what an insane recovery that was. It was such a good feeling to come out from this game. And while my opponent isn't playing the most competitive deck, nor necessarily the best game of their life, still they had a heck of a draw with a first turn mana vault and me going, what was it, 5 cards I think we counted before I could find my first mana source on the board, having discarded 3 cards. So totally crazy, crazy game. And it felt amazing to be able to pull that back. And then the turn where all I've got like nothing on the board. I'm at 11, and my opponent goes Army of the Damned off the top and threatens to go lethal on the next turn. I mean, I don't know. That was just probably one of the most satisfying games, certainly of the year so far. Definitely in a while, but 2019, this is the top game for me. So I did talk a little bit about what I wanted to do with the deck. There is a card that I'm trying to figure out how to fit in the deck. I haven't, I'm not sure. Like, I'm interested in your input. Does the card belong, do you think? And if so, what can we possibly pull for it? And that card is Fractured Identity. So Fractured Identity is, in a weird way, kind of similar to Treachery for anything that isn't a land, because you exile the target and then put a copy of it into play, which kind of functionally is like control magic, but it doesn't come with the untap clause. So it's really good on the, because it can exile. It's incredibly good if your opponent, so they tap out and they go, Scarab God or whatever, and then you Fractured Identity that thing, and boom, you've got a Scarab God. That's an incredible tempo swing, right? But also the fact that it takes out planeswalkers, like the opponent taps out, plays Jace or something, and they draw a few cards, and then you Fractured Identity, Jace, exile it permanently, and now you've got a Jace copy that you're running. Crazy. I think it's also blue, which means you can force a will with it. So it seems really good to me. Um, I just can't find the slot for it. Meanwhile, I took out that Eddarkar Wastes that I had that I really liked having in here, but I needed a slot for Inventor's Fair, I think. Um, I would prefer Whir over Inventor's Fair for searching for artifacts, but I need more mana, just lands, right? So I want to use Inventor's Fair and see how I feel about it. I tried it in the past, but I think back when I tried it, I don't even think I had Duretti, much less Dovin and some of the other things that are in the deck now. So I think it's a little bit stronger potentially right now. Easier to use with like possibly Teferi untapping your lands to make it so that you can like make a play, get a couple of mana back, a rebate, and then activate Inventor's Fair at the end of your opponent's turn or something. So I'd like to try it. It has really good synergy with Breya, since Breya gives you everything you need to gain the life every turn. And of course the life can help with Necro a little bit. But also the fact that it can tutor and kind of like complete its own combo. You can Inventor's Fair to go get Crucible. And then Crucible will recover the Inventor's Fair, and then you can Inventor's Fair to go get Expedition Map, and Expedition Map will fetch you a Strip Mine. So it's incredibly slow, but if the game's slow enough, that could be quite useful. Or Inventor's Fair, Crucible, Inventor's Fair, Map, thrown to the High City on an empty board. Now you're drawing 2 cards per turn, plus you're Crucibling and Inventor's Fair, so you're really getting like 3 or 4 cards per turn. So pretty cool stuff. We'll see if it stays, but I think it is definitely interesting enough to try. What do you think? You like the Inventor's Fair? This was suggested in the last video I did by one of the viewers, and it reminded me of the card. I had kind of forgotten it. And I think that viewer was correct. It is worth a second look. What do you think about Fractured Identity? Is that fit in the deck? And if so, how in the world do I fit it in here? What cut can I possibly make to this thing? So really interested in your thoughts. And as always, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the game. And I'll see you next time.